I gripped the edge of my father's hospital bed, my knuckles white against the cold metal rail. The steady beep of the heart monitor was the only sound I wanted to hear, but my phone kept buzzing in my pocket. Text after text. I knew who it was. I knew what she wanted. And I knew my father had no idea what was about to happen to him. The fluorescent lights of Vancouver General Hospital cast harsh shadows across my father's face. He looked smaller than I remembered, more fragile. At 73, he'd always been the strongest man I knew. A crane operator for 40 years, hands like steel, shoulders that could carry the world. Now those hands lay motionless on white sheets, an IV line snaking into his arm. The stroke had come without warning 3 days ago. Massive. Devastating. The doctor said he was lucky to be alive. I wasn't sure luck had anything to do with it. My phone buzzed again. I pulled it out, already knowing what I'd see. Another message from Denise. My father's wife of 18 months. Where are you? It read. We need to talk about your father's care plan. Care plan. The words made my stomach turn. I'd been in Toronto when I got the call. Not from Denise, interestingly enough. From my father's neighbor, Mrs. Chen, who'd seen the ambulance. Your father collapsed in the driveway, she'd said, her voice shaking. They're taking him to Vancouver General. I thought you should know. Where's Denise? I'd asked. There was a pause. I haven't seen her, Michael. Her car's not here. I'd caught the first flight I could get. 5 hours of sitting in that airplane seat, my mind racing. My father and I had always been close, even after my mother died 10 years ago. He'd grieved hard, thrown himself into work, into his hobbies. For 8 years, he'd been alone. Then Denise appeared. She was 42 to his 71. Beautiful, charming, attentive. She'd met him at a community center yoga class, of all places. My father, doing yoga. I should have known something was off right then. Within 6 months, they were married. I'd tried to be happy for him. Tried to ignore the way she looked at his bank statements instead of his face. Tried to dismiss the feeling in my gut that screamed this was wrong. My sister Sarah had felt it too. She's too young, Michael, she'd said over coffee 2 months after the wedding. And she asks too many questions about Dad's investments. But our father was happy, or seemed to be. And who were we to interfere? He'd earned his happiness after a lifetime of hard work, after losing our mother. If he'd found companionship, even love, who were we to judge? Now, watching him lie unconscious in this hospital bed, I wondered if our silence had been kindness or cowardice. I stepped out into the hallway, pulling up Denise's contact. Before I could call, my phone rang. Sarah's name flashed on the screen. I'm at the house, she said without preamble. Her voice was tight, controlled. My sister had always been the calm one, the accountant who dealt in facts and figures. But I could hear something underneath now. Fear or anger. Michael, you need to hear this. What's going on? I came by to pick up some things for Dad. Clothes, his reading glasses. The house was empty, so I used my key. She paused. His office is completely cleared out. The filing cabinets, the desk drawers, everything. All his financial documents are gone. My hand tightened around the phone. What do you mean, gone? I mean, someone packed up every single paper. The safe is open and empty. His computer is still here, but the hard drive's been wiped. Her voice cracked slightly. Michael, where is Denise? That was the question, wasn't it? I'd called her the moment I landed in Vancouver. Straight to voicemail. I'd texted. Nothing. I'd even tried the house phone. No answer. For 3 days, while our father fought for his life in intensive care, his wife had been completely unreachable. I don't know, I said, but I'm going to find out. I hung up and pulled up Instagram. Denise was active on social media, always posting yoga poses, healthy meals, inspirational quotes. I scrolled through her feed, looking for anything recent. There, posted 4 hours ago. My blood went cold. It was a photo of a mimosa, the glass beaded with condensation, a perfectly manicured hand holding the stem. In the background, blurred but unmistakable, was a spa interior, marble floors, orchids, soft lighting. The caption read, Self-Care Sunday. Sometimes you just need to recharge. Self-Care Sunday. While my father lay in a hospital bed, fighting his way back from a massive stroke, his wife was at a spa, getting her nails done, drinking mimosas. I felt something shift inside me. That protective instinct that had lain dormant for years, the one that had made me check my father's seatbelt even when I was 8 years old, the one that had made me call him every Sunday without fail. It crystallized into something harder, something cold and sharp. This wasn't grief. This wasn't a woman overwhelmed by her husband's medical emergency, seeking a moment of peace to process her fear. This was something else entirely. I went back to my father's room. A nurse was checking his vitals, adjusting the IV drip. She smiled at me. That professional compassion that healthcare workers perfect. "Any change?" I asked. "He's stable. The swelling in his brain is going down. It's a good sign." She made a note on her chart. "Are you the son, Michael?" "Yes. Your father's wife called earlier. She wanted to know about his prognosis, his treatment plan. She had a lot of questions about power of attorney." My spine stiffened. "What kind of questions?" The nurse hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. "I really should let you speak with the doctor about that. But she was asking about decision-making authority. Who has the right to make medical decisions if he can't?" "And what did you tell her?" "That Dr. Morrison would need to discuss that with the family." She glanced at the door, then back at me. Her voice dropped. "Mr. Thornton, I probably shouldn't say this, but in 20 years of nursing, I've seen a lot of families in crisis. Most spouses are here within an hour. They sleep in these chairs. They don't leave their partner's side." She paused. "Your father's wife hasn't been here once." I thanked her and waited until she left. Then I sat down in the chair beside my father's bed and opened my laptop. If Denise wanted to play games with power of attorney, I needed to know exactly what legal standing she had. I logged into my father's email. He'd given me the password years ago after he forgot it twice and locked himself out. "Just in case," he'd said. "I'm getting old, Michael. Can't remember all these damn passwords." The inbox loaded, hundreds of unread messages. I started scrolling, looking for anything from lawyers, banks, financial advisors. There, an email from Morrison and Associates, a law firm in West Vancouver. Subject line, updated estate documents. I opened it. The email was dated 3 weeks ago. "Dear Mr. Thornton, as discussed, please find attached the updated power of attorney documents and the amended will. These supersede all previous versions. As per your instructions, your wife, Denise Thornton, is now designated as your primary attorney for property and personal care, effective immediately. She will have full authority to make all financial and medical decisions on your behalf, should you become incapacitated." The words blurred. I read it again, forcing myself to focus. 3 weeks ago, my father had signed over complete control of his life to Denise. Power of attorney for property, power of attorney for personal care. She could access his bank accounts, sell his house, make medical decisions, everything. And he'd done it 3 weeks before having a massive stroke. Was I being paranoid? Was this just a coincidence? My father was 73. It was responsible to have these documents in place. But the timing, I kept scrolling through the emails. There was another one, this time from TD Bank. A notification about a new account opening. Joint account with Denise Thornton. $200,000 transferred from my father's savings. Another email from his financial advisor at RBC. "I want to confirm your instruction to liquidate the following investments. A list of mutual funds, stocks, bonds, my father's retirement portfolio, almost $500,000, all converted to cash." When had this happened? I checked the dates. The account opening, 2 weeks ago. The investment liquidation, 10 days ago. The power of attorney, 3 weeks ago. This wasn't preparation for old age. This was a plan. My phone rang. Sarah again. "I found something," she said. She sounded breathless. I went through the garbage bins. Someone tried to shred documents, but didn't empty the shredder. "Michael, there's a prenuptial agreement." A prenup? My father had never mentioned one. I'd assumed in his rush to marry Denise, he'd skipped that step. "Yes, and it's very specific. In the event of divorce, Denise gets nothing. No alimony, no property settlement, nothing. She leaves with exactly what she brought into the marriage. My mind raced. But if he dies while they're married, she inherits everything. The house, the life insurance, the investments, everything. Sarah's voice hardened. Michael, the prenup is dated 4 months after they got married, which means for the first 4 months, she would have gotten half of everything in a divorce. But Dad changed it. He protected his assets. Did he tell you about this? No, but I'm looking at it right now. It's signed and notarized. She paused. There's something else. There are bank statements here, from an account I don't recognize. Regular transfers of $5,000 a month, going back to before Dad even met Denise. To someone named Celine Marchant. Who's that? I don't know. But I'm going to find out. After we hung up, I sat in the dim hospital room, listening to the machines breathe for my father. My mind was putting pieces together, and I didn't like the picture forming. Denise meets my father. They marry quickly. For the first few months, she's entitled to half his assets. Then he adds a prenup that cuts her out completely if they divorce. So divorce is no longer profitable. But if he dies, and now, weeks before a massive stroke, he signs over power of attorney. He liquidates investments. He consolidates cash into joint accounts she can access. The stroke? Was it really a stroke? I stood up, pacing the small room. I was letting my imagination run wild. Strokes happened. They were common in men his age. There was no evidence of anything sinister, except my father had always been healthy. He worked out, watched his diet. His blood pressure was good, his cholesterol managed with medication. His last physical, 6 months ago, had been completely normal. I knew because he'd called me, proud that the doctor said he had the heart of a 60-year-old. And now, he was here. I called Dr. Morrison, my father's neurologist. It took 20 minutes to get him on the phone. Mr. Thornton, your father had an ischemic stroke, a blood clot in the brain. It's quite common, unfortunately. What causes it? Many things. High blood pressure, atherosclerosis, heart conditions. Sometimes we never know the exact cause. Could it be caused by something external? There was a pause. What do you mean? Could someone cause a stroke? Deliberately? Another pause. Longer this time. Mr. Thornton, are you asking me if your father was poisoned? I'm asking if it's possible. There are substances that can increase stroke risk. Blood thinners in excessive doses, certain toxins. But we ran a full toxicology screen. Everything came back normal. His voice gentled. I understand this is difficult. You're looking for answers. But sometimes these things just happen. After I hung up, I wasn't satisfied. Toxicology screens tested for known substances. But what about unknown ones? What about things that wouldn't show up in standard tests? I was spiraling. I knew I was. But I couldn't stop. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Stop asking questions. Your father is fine. He's getting the best care. Focus on his recovery, not conspiracy theories. Denise. How did she know I'd been asking questions? Was she monitoring my father's medical records? Did she have someone at the hospital feeding her information? I texted back, "Where are you?" 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then, "That's none of your business. I'm his wife. He's unconscious in a hospital. It's absolutely my business." No response. I looked at my father's still face. What was I supposed to do? I had suspicions, but no proof. A pattern, but no evidence. I couldn't go to the police and say, "I think my stepmother is trying to steal my father's money." They'd laugh me out of the station. I needed evidence. Real evidence. I called a friend from university, David Chen, who'd become a private investigator after his police career ended. We'd stayed in touch over the years, meeting for beers whenever I was in Vancouver. "Michael," he said when he answered, "how's your father? That's why I'm calling. I need your help." I explained everything. The missing Denise, the spa photo, the power of attorney, the liquidated investments. David listened without interrupting. "You want me to investigate your stepmother?" he said when I finished. "Yes. You know what you're accusing her of, right?" "I know. And you understand that if you're wrong, this could destroy your relationship with your father. I understand. But David, everything in my gut is screaming that something's wrong. My father doesn't just sign over power of attorney and liquidate his entire portfolio on a whim. And his wife doesn't disappear to a spa when he's fighting for his life. Okay, David said. Give me 24 hours. While I waited, I did my own digging. I started with Céline Marchant, the name on those bank transfers Sarah had found. A Google search brought up a woman in Montreal, age 68. Her Facebook profile showed a pleasant-looking woman with gray hair, surrounded by grandchildren. I sent her a message, keeping it vague. Hello, my name is Michael Thornton. My father is Douglas Thornton from Vancouver. I came across your name in some of his records and wondered if we might speak. The response came within an hour. Please call me. She answered on the first ring. Is Douglas all right? Her voice carried a French accent, trembling with worry. He's had a stroke. He's in hospital. Mon Dieu. And that woman, is she there? My pulse quickened. Denise? No, she's not. Mrs. Marchant, how do you know my father? Your father. She paused. This is difficult. Your father and I, we were involved. For 3 years. We met online, both of us widowed, looking for companionship. He was so kind. We talked every day. He helped me financially when my daughter was sick, $5,000 a month, to help with medical bills. When did this end? 2 years ago. He met someone. He said he was getting married. I was hurt, but I understood. He's a good man. He continued to help me financially, even after we stopped talking romantically. He said it was the right thing to do. 2 years ago, right when Denise appeared. Mrs. Marchant, did my father ever mention anything unusual about Denise? Any concerns? He didn't talk about her much. But there was one call, maybe 6 months ago. He seemed worried. He said he'd discovered she'd been married before, but she'd never told him. He'd found divorce papers in a drawer. The husband's name was, let me think, Bernard? No, Bennett, Richard Bennett. I wrote down the name. Do you know what happened to Richard Bennett? Your father said the man died, only 2 years after they married. Heart attack, he thought. Or maybe a stroke. Douglas was upset that she'd kept this secret from him. After we hung up, I felt cold. Denise had been married before. Her husband had died, just like she was now positioned to inherit everything if my father died. I searched for Richard Bennett. Found an obituary from 3 years ago. Richard Bennett, beloved husband, passed away suddenly at age 68, survived by his wife, Denise. I kept digging, found another obituary, this one from 5 years ago. Thomas Ashford, 71, passed away unexpectedly, survived by his wife, Denise. Thomas Ashford, Richard Bennett, Douglas Thornton, 3 men, all older, all wealthy, from what I could piece together from their obituaries. All married to Denise, 2 dead within 2 years of marriage. And my father, my phone rang. David, Michael, where are you right now? At the hospital. Why? Stay there. Don't go anywhere. I'm 20 minutes away. David, what? Just stay there. He showed up 18 minutes later, a folder under his arm. We went to the hospital cafeteria, found a quiet corner. Your stepmother, he said, pulling out documents, has been married 4 times, not twice, 4 times. He spread photos across the table. Denise, looking younger, standing beside different men at different weddings. Thomas Ashford died 5 years ago. Richard Bennett died 3 years ago. Martin Cole died 7 years ago. 3 dead husbands. And she was the sole beneficiary each time. Life insurance, property, investments. She walked away with approximately $2 million from Thomas Ashford, $1.5 million from Richard Bennett, and $3 million from Martin Cole. I stared at the photos. That's $6.5 million. From dead husbands? Yes. And now she's married to your father, who's worth approximately $2 million, based on the property records and investment accounts I could find. How did they die? David pulled out more papers. Martin Cole, heart attack. Thomas Ashford, stroke. Richard Bennett, accidental fall downstairs, head trauma. Anyone investigate? Martin Cole's death was investigated. His children were suspicious. But the autopsy came back clean. Natural causes. The other two weren't investigated at all. Why would they be? Older men. Health problems. Tragic, but not suspicious. But 3 husbands. 3 husbands is a pattern. 1 husband dying could be tragedy. 2 could be terrible luck. 3? David leaned forward. Michael, I contacted a friend in the Montreal police. Turns out, Martin Cole's family did hire a private investigator before he died. They suspected Denise was after his money. The PI found evidence she'd been researching inheritance laws, life insurance policies, and, he paused, substances that can cause strokes and heart attacks. What kind of substances? Nothing illegal on its own. Things you can buy at health food stores. But combined in the right doses, they can cause serious cardiovascular problems. Blood clots, arrhythmias, strokes. My hands were shaking. Do you think she's poisoning my father? I think your father got lucky. I think whatever she was planning got interrupted when he had his stroke earlier than expected. I think she's been liquidating his assets and positioning herself to inherit everything. And I think we need to go to the police. Now. But I hesitated. We don't have proof. Just patterns. Coincidences. Michael, if we go to the police now, with what we have, what will they do? Open an investigation that takes months? In the meantime, she has power of attorney. She can make medical decisions for my father. What if she decides to withdraw life support? What if she argues it's what he would have wanted? David's expression darkened. You're right. We need more. Her phone, I said. If she's been researching this, if she's been planning this, there will be evidence on her phone. Text messages, searches, something. How do you plan to get her phone? I don't know yet. But I know she'll have to come to the hospital eventually. She'll want to look like the grieving wife. And when she does... I didn't finish the sentence. I didn't need to. David nodded slowly. Okay. But Michael, we need to protect your father right now. Today. Can you get Sarah here? She's on her way. Good. One of you needs to be with him at all times. Don't let anyone give him medication without checking with a nurse you trust. Don't let anyone in his room without verifying who they are. You think Denise would try something here? In the hospital? I think a woman who's potentially killed 3 men won't hesitate to finish what she started. Especially now that she knows people are asking questions. I called Sarah. She was already in the parking lot. When she came up, David briefed her on everything he'd found. My sister's face went pale. Then hard. That bitch, she said quietly. All this time, she's been planning to kill our father. We don't know for sure, I started. Michael, stop. 3 dead husbands. Our father signing over power of attorney weeks before a convenient stroke. Her disappearing while he fights for his life. We know. She was right. We knew. So what do we do? Sarah asked. I looked at my father through the window of his room. Machines keeping him alive. My strong, kind, hard-working father, who'd loved our mother for 40 years, who'd been lonely after she died, who'd been vulnerable to a woman with a pretty smile and deadly intentions. We save him, I said, and we make sure she pays for what she's done. The plan formed over the next hour. Sarah would stay with my father, not leaving his side. David would continue investigating, building a case we could take to the police, and I would draw Denise out. I texted her from my father's phone, which I'd found in the bag of his personal effects. Need to discuss estate matters. Can you come to the hospital? The response came quickly. When? Tonight, 8 p.m. Come to his room. I'll be there. At 7:45, I was waiting. Sarah sat beside my father's bed, her hand in his. David was in the hallway, a small recording device ready. Denise arrived at exactly 8 p.m. She looked stunning, as always. Her hair was freshly styled, her makeup perfect. She wore a designer outfit, expensive perfume. She'd come from the spa, looking like she was going to a gallery opening, not visiting her dying husband. Michael, she said, her voice dripping with false warmth. I'm so glad you're here. I've been so worried. Have you? Something flickered in her eyes. Of course. Douglas is everything to me. Where have you been for 3 days? I've been processing. This has been so overwhelming. I needed some time to. You've been at a spa, getting your nails done, drinking mimosas. Her expression hardened. How dare you judge me? Everyone grieves differently. This isn't grief, Denise. This is preparation. Preparation for what? For inheriting everything. She laughed, but it was brittle. You think I want Douglas to die? I love him. Like you loved Martin Cole, Thomas Ashford, Richard Bennett? The color drained from her face. Who have you been talking to? Does it matter? 3 dead husbands, Denise. All of them older, wealthy, and dead within 2 years of marrying you. And all of them died the same way my father nearly did. Stroke, heart attack, convenient accidents. This is ridiculous. Those were tragedies. I grieved for all of them. Did you? Or did you spend their life insurance money on the next target? She took a step toward me, her voice dropping to a hiss. You have no idea what you're talking about. You have no proof of anything. I have enough to convince the police to look into it. Patterns are evidence, Denise, and your pattern is very clear. She glanced at the door, calculating. If you had real evidence, you would have gone to them already. You're bluffing. Am I? Let's find out. I pulled out my phone. I'm calling the Vancouver police right now. Let's see what they think about. She moved fast, grabbing my wrist. Don't. Why not? If you're innocent, you have nothing to worry about. Her grip tightened. Michael, listen to me. Your father and I had an agreement. He knew what he was doing. The power of attorney, the financial changes, all of it. He wanted me to have security. Security? You're 42. You don't need a 73-year-old man's money for security. Unless, I saw it then, the calculation in her eyes, the moment she decided how much to reveal. Unless I've earned it, she said quietly. Do you know what it's like, Michael? Being married to old men? Pretending to want them? To love them? It's work. Hard work. I deserve compensation. You're admitting it. You married them for money. I'm saying, I provided a service, companionship, care. And yes, when they passed, I was compensated. What's wrong with that? What's wrong is that they didn't just pass. You helped them along. Her eyes went cold. You can't prove that. Maybe not yet, but I will. And in the meantime, my father is not going to die, and you're not going to get a penny. She released my wrist, stepping back. You think you can stop this? I have power of attorney, Michael. I can make medical decisions. I can decide what's best for Douglas. And if I decide his quality of life isn't worth maintaining, you'd pull the plug. I'd honor what I know he'd want. No machines, no prolonged suffering, dignity in death. Except he's not dying. He's recovering. The doctors say he has a good chance. Doctors are wrong all the time. She smiled, and it was the most chilling thing I'd ever seen. Things happen in hospitals. Complications, infections, medication errors. Is that a threat? It's reality. Your father is very ill, Michael. Anything could happen. That's when David stepped into the room, his phone held up. And we have all of that recorded. Denise's face went white. That's illegal. Actually, in British Columbia, one-party consent is legal for recording. And Michael consented. David smiled. You just confessed to marrying multiple men for money and threatened to kill your husband. Even if it's not enough to convict you of murdering your other husbands, it's enough to get your power of attorney revoked and open multiple investigations. She looked between us, trapped. Then her expression changed. The mask slipped completely off. You think you're so clever, she said, her voice pure venom. But you're too late. The money's already moved. Offshore accounts. Untraceable. Even if you get the power of attorney revoked, I've already taken everything that matters. Not everything, I said. You don't have him, she laughed, a harsh sound. What good is he to you? Even if he survives, he'll be brain damaged, a shell. You'll spend years caring for an invalid, watching your inheritance drain away on medical care. I was going to give him a peaceful death. I was being merciful. Merciful. The word tasted like poison. You're insane. I'm practical. Men like your father, they have more money than they need. They're lonely, desperate for attention. All I did was provide what they wanted and get compensated for it. It's not my fault their hearts couldn't handle the excitement. The excitement you created with whatever drugs you were giving them. She shrugged. Supplements, vitamins, health foods, nothing illegal. If their bodies couldn't process them properly, well, that's unfortunate. Cocaine isn't illegal, I said, taking a calculated risk. Something flickered in her expression. Just for a second, but it was enough. I don't know what you're talking about. Blood thinners aren't illegal either. Neither are certain herbal supplements, but mixed together in the right doses, they can cause strokes, especially in older men. Did you know that, Denise? She said nothing. The police will figure it out. They'll do autopsies on your other husbands. They'll find the evidence, and you'll spend the rest of your life in prison. Good luck with that, she said, turning toward the door. I'm leaving. Going somewhere you'll never find me, and there's nothing you can do about it. The money's gone. I'm gone. Enjoy taking care of your vegetable father. David moved to block the door. You're not going anywhere. I've already called the police. They're on their way. Her eyes widened. You can't keep me here. We can. Citizen's arrest. You threatened my father's life, and we have it on recording. She pulled out her phone. I'm calling my lawyer. Go ahead, I said. Call whoever you want, but you're not leaving this room until the police get there. For a long moment, she stood there, calculating her options. I could see her weighing the odds. Run, fight, talk her way out. In the end, she sat down in the chair across from my father's bed and crossed her arms. I'm not saying another word without my lawyer present. Smart, David said, because you've already said more than enough. The police arrived 15 minutes later. 2 officers, a man and a woman, who listened carefully as David played the recording and showed them the evidence he'd gathered. Denise sat silent, her face a mask. Mrs. Thornton, the male officer said, we'd like you to come with us to the station. We have some questions. Am I under arrest? Not at this time, but we strongly suggest you cooperate. She stood, smoothing her designer dress. As she walked past me, she leaned in close. You think you've won, she whispered, but your father's still a vegetable, and even if he wakes up, he'll never be the same. I've already destroyed him. Money was just a bonus. I watched her leave, flanked by police officers. My hands were shaking with rage and relief. Sarah came out of the room, tears streaming down her face. He squeezed my hand. What? Just now, while you were talking to the police. His hand moved, and he squeezed mine. Just a little, but... Michael, I think he heard everything. I think he knows we saved him. We went back into the room together. My father's eyes were still closed, but there was something different about his face. A slight relaxation, as if a weight had lifted. I took his other hand. Dad, if you can hear me, squeeze. Nothing. Then, barely perceptible, a pressure against my palm. He squeezed. The investigation moved quickly after that. With Denise's recorded confession and David's evidence, the police obtained warrants to exhume the bodies of her previous husbands. Toxicology reports showed elevated levels of substances that, while individually harmless, together created a deadly cocktail that induced strokes and heart attacks. Her computers and phones revealed years of research on inheritance laws, life insurance policies, and how to kill without leaving evidence. They also found her journals, detailed records of each husband, what they liked, what they feared, how much they were worth, plans for manipulation, timelines for when they'd become ready. It was methodical, clinical, terrifying. Martin Cole's children were notified. Richard Bennett's sister, Thomas Ashford's brother. Families who'd suspected but had no proof now had validation. Their loved ones hadn't just died. They'd been murdered. Denise was charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder. Her trial made international news. Black Widow Killer, the headlines screamed. Woman poisoned 4 husbands for millions. During the trial, more came out. She'd grown up in poverty, bouncing between foster homes. She'd learned early that men with money would pay for attention, for the illusion of love. Her first husband had been legitimate, a love match, but he'd left her for a younger woman after she turned 35. Something broke in her after that. She'd decided if men were going to use women for their youth and beauty, she'd use them right back, for their money. But it had escalated. The first husband, Martin Cole, she'd married genuinely intending to stay with him. He was kind, wealthy, lonely, but when he'd started talking about changing his will to leave more to his children, she'd panicked. The supplements had been an experiment. When he died, she realized how easy it was. After that, it became a career. My father woke up fully 2 weeks after Denise was arrested. The doctors were amazed by his recovery. Stroke patients his age rarely bounced back so completely. But my father was stubborn. He'd always been stubborn. When he could finally talk, his first question was, "Where is she?" "In jail," I told him. "Where she belongs." He closed his eyes. "I'm such a fool." "No, you're not. You're a lonely man who wanted companionship. She preyed on that. It's not your fault. I should have listened to you, to Sarah. You both tried to warn me. We weren't sure ourselves. We just had feelings. You had love, or what you thought was love." He looked at me, tears in his eyes. "Thank you, son. You saved my life. You'd have done the same for me. You did do the same for me. 1,000 times growing up." Over the following months, we worked to rebuild my father's life. Sarah and I hired lawyers to trace the stolen money. Most of it was gone, moved through shell corporations and offshore accounts. But we recovered about a quarter of it, enough to make sure my father was comfortable for the rest of his life. He sold the house. "Too many memories of Denise," he said. He bought a smaller place, a condo near the water. Sarah moved to Vancouver to be closer to him. I visited every month. Celine Marchand came to visit, at my father's invitation. They talked for hours. He apologized for the way things had ended. She forgave him. They stayed friends, calling each other weekly. My father started volunteering at a senior center, talking to other widowers about the dangers of rushing into relationships, about recognizing manipulation. He turned his pain into purpose. Denise's trial lasted 3 months. The evidence was overwhelming. She was convicted on all charges. The judge, in his sentencing, said he'd rarely seen such calculated cruelty. She was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole for 35 years. She'd be 87 if she ever got out. As they led her away, she looked at me in the gallery. Our eyes met. There was no remorse there, no regret, just cold calculation. Even then, she'd failed this time. But I had the terrible feeling that if she ever got free, she'd try again. My father and I were sitting on his balcony one evening, watching the sun set over English Bay, when he said, "You know what I learned from all this?" "What's that?" "That love isn't about filling loneliness. Real love doesn't take, it gives." He looked at me. "Your mother gave. She gave every day of our marriage, gave her time, her energy, her heart. Never asked for anything in return except my presence. That's love." Denise took everything. My money, yes, but more than that, she took my judgment, my trust, my faith in people. She almost took my life. He paused. "But you and Sarah gave it back. You fought for me when I couldn't fight for myself. That's love too." I put my hand on his shoulder. "You're a good man, Dad. You deserve better than what she did to you." Maybe. But I learned something valuable. I learned that family is the only investment that actually matters. Money comes and goes, but family stays. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the sky turn orange, then purple, then dark. Somewhere in a prison in British Columbia, Denise was beginning her new life. A life of concrete walls and barred windows, paying for the lives she'd taken and the ones she'd tried to take. My father was alive. That was what mattered. He was alive, and we'd gotten justice. Not perfect justice, maybe. Some of the money was gone forever. The trauma would linger, but justice, nonetheless. As I drove home that night, through the streets of Vancouver, I thought about all the other families out there. Other lonely widowers, other vulnerable people, being targeted by predators who saw them as nothing more than bank accounts with heartbeats. My father had been lucky. He had children who loved him, who noticed something was wrong, who fought for him. Not everyone had that. But maybe, with Denise's story making headlines, with the warning signs being publicized, fewer people would fall victim to the next Denise. Maybe some daughter or son would recognize the pattern and save their parent. Maybe some lonely widower would see the red flags and walk away. My father had become a cautionary tale, but he'd also become a survivor. And in the end, that was the better story. Not the almost victim who died, but the father who lived, saved by the children who loved him. That was the story worth telling. That was the story that mattered. The numbers had never been the point. My father had always known that. He'd worked hard, saved money, built a comfortable life, but none of it mattered compared to the people he loved. In the end, it was people who saved him, not money. It was love that protected him when wealth made him vulnerable. Denise had thought she was so clever. She'd planned everything so carefully, but she'd missed the one variable she couldn't control. A son who loved his father too much to let him go. A daughter who knew something was wrong. A family that refused to give up. She'd thought my father was alone. That's where she'd made her fatal miscalculation. He'd never been alone. He'd had us, and we'd had him. That was worth more than any amount of money. That was the real inheritance. Not property or investments, but love, protection, the willingness to fight for each other when everything seemed lost. My father taught me that, without ever saying a word. He taught me by needing me, by letting me save him, by trusting me to see what he couldn't, and I'd carry that lesson for the rest of my life.